Hello and welcome to another EU4 video. Today we'll look at another new tag that was introduced in the last patch, the tag of Zimbabwe. Now I know I am a little late on these video guides as there are already other guides on Zimbabwe, so I'm trying to devise a better strategy from what we already see out there to bring a fresh perspective. So let's get right into it. For Zimbabwe, we start as Mutapa, as one of the decisions in their mission tree gives us the option to form Zimbabwe. Mutapa starts with a pretty bad ruler and a below average heir, but the economy is strong thanks to the two gold mines. The biggest hurdle at the start is that we start at Tech 2 with feudalism not embraced. And so the first order of business is to get feudalism, and turns out it is present in Kilwa. So now we know who should our first target be. We will do the usual estate clicks. Unfortunately, we only start with 27% crown land instead of the usual 30%. I don't know why that's the case here. So we cannot take all three +1 monarch points privilege. I would take +1 admin and +1 mill here. And one of the clergy privileges of embrace singular cult, which makes the present cult stronger. It makes it harder to change cults, but we don't need to do that for a while because the cult we will take is the +2.5% discipline, which becomes +5% with that privilege. It's a massive boost for early wars. We will take Kilwa and Maravi as rivals and start building spy network on Kilwa. You might get lucky and get a claim on Sofala from an estate mission as well. Either case, as soon as the claim is ready, we are going to attack Kilwa. We will hire the Zanj company here, which is actually Miltech 3, and see if you can find a discipline or a morale advisor. Now, Kilwa will be allied to someone. I tested this run a few times, and honestly, even if Kilwa has 2 allies, you can still beat them easily. Just take out the 3k in Sofala first, then park your army on the choke point here and let your vassals siege down Sofalan capital. You can actually just fight Kilwan army head on, and once you have fought them a couple of times, they won't have enough troops, and you can start sieging down their provinces. Take as much as you can from Kilwa in this war. If they have Ajuran or someone else as a bigger ally, it might be harder to take a lot, but in my game they were only allied to Entemoro, who did not bother to come for help at all, so I could take almost all provinces from Kilwa. This is a massive start for Mutapa. Not only you double your provinces and trade power, you can already embrace feudalism and start taking up. With enough reform points, you can also switch the first reform to get the 5% coring cost discount. Now during this war, or even before it, a terrible event will fire, the regression of Zimbabwe. You lose a stab and you get some bad modifiers in the capital. Also, the capital is now a 3 dev province. Once the event fires and we have +1 stab, we can complete a mission that gives one of the best modifiers in game. Constructing a non-defensive building increases the development of that province, while deleting a building will decrease the dev. The implications of these modifiers are massive because it gives us a way to convert ducats directly into dev. The other way we do it is with our advisors, right? But with advisors, at the start, we pay 1 ducats per month to get the level 1 advisor that gives us 1 monarch point. So in a year, we are paying 12 ducats to get 12 monarch points, plus 16 ducats to hire them. So it's actually 28 ducats, which rounds to 2.3 ducats per monarch point in a year. While with the new buildings modifier, we are paying 100 ducats in a year, as it typically takes 1 year to build a tier 1 building. To get how many monarch points? Well, it depends on the current development of the province. A 3 dev province will cost 50 monarch points to dev without any modifiers. So at the very least, you are getting 50 dev from 100 ducats or 2 ducats per dev. It is actually cheaper than our usual method of converting ducats to monarch points. Now factor in the increased dev cost for bigger provinces where the buildings will give better returns from their own modifier, plus the extra dev. Also, higher level advisors cost a lot more. For example, a level 2 advisor will cost 4.7 ducats per monarch point. Tier 2 buildings also cost more and you will spend 500 ducats to get +2 dev in that province. But I digress. Monarch points generation from advisors will always be useful, obviously, but getting free dev from building is amazing. And we will get back to this feature later in the video to see how much extra dev we actually got from the building in this playthrough. Getting back to our playthrough, the next obvious steps are to take over our neighbors. I attack Maravi soon. One thing I like doing here is to vassalize someone who is allied to neighbors, so I take 1 vassal in the Congo region and 1 vassal in the Great Lakes region. Then just feed them everything in that region, and later we can annex them if we want to. Later, I integrated Butwa, which completes another mission and unlocks a merc company which is pretty strong with infantry compatibility and extra discipline. At this point, you should look for a higher level admin advisor. I found a half price one and upgraded him to level 4 because the next missions are dependent on building temples, which unlocks at admin tech 4. The Restore Zimbabwe missions require +2 stab, a temple, and a marketplace in the capital, and 20 development. Which is pretty painful because we have the plus 55% dev cost modifier from the event, but that's what we need to do. While we develop it, we can also get Renaissance in the capital, make sure it already has feudalism before starting to dev up, also dev it up to 20 and wait till you can complete the mission before deving up Renaissance rest of the way, as you get minus 15% dev cost local modifier from the next mission. One other thing we can unlock from the missions is the new controlled gold mining estate privilege. Basically, you get slightly less money from gold provinces, but you also get less inflation and less chance of depletion. It does increase the power cost by 5%, which in my opinion is a lot. I don't think the privilege is worth taking early. It might be worth if you have a ton of gold provinces, but that's probably a separate video to go in depth into those modifiers. I won't go over each mission here, but we will look at some of the important ones. One of the important bits we get from the mission tree is a conquistador, which we can use to explore the South African Cape region. And once we have discovered Cape, we get a free colonist for 100 years, or until we take exploration or expansion idea group. My advice is to just keep the free colonist and keep colonizing the whole of South African region. Once your economy allows, you can start multiple colonies at a time. The aim is to colonize all of South African area in 100 years. Next steps are to keep conquering up the eastern coast, as that's the only expansion route we have right now. I vassalized Ajuran in my game as they had a lot of reconquest cores. I also vassalized a miner in the Madagascar region and gave them all of that island. The first war against Ethiopia can be a bit difficult depending on how many allies they have, but usually you will have a tech advantage, so it shouldn't be too bad. But this was me in 1501. I have vassals in the Congo region and the Lakes region and Madagascar. Once we get to 400 development, we can click on another mission and form Zimbabwe. We get the option to either form it right now or get a decision to form it later. Zimbabwe does have a really nice color, and I think it's great for map painting purposes. I also decided to develop colonialism in Pate as it has got a lot of dev modifiers. The next steps were to keep attacking Ethiopia, get a foothold in Arabia, and finally we get to the last government reform where we can choose to stay as tribe or become a monarchy, a theocracy, a republic, or a horde. And obviously I chose the horde, and I think you should too. Hordes are super fun to expand, obviously. The problem with hordes is the economy, and so newer players don't get to enjoy it fully if you start as a horde. I think Zimbabwe is one of the best candidates to go horde, as by the time we become horde, we have a very strong economy and can handle the massive cavalry costs. The first big horde war was against Mamluks, and it was easy as they have already been beaten by Ottomans. The Ottomans itself are a scary prospect, and now I had a direct border with them, so I decided to ally Poland, who had rivaled Ottomans. I kept expanding in Arabia as well, while waiting on Mamluks and Ethiopian truces. In 1561, I saw that Ottomans were busy fighting the Protestant League War, so this was the perfect opportunity to attack them with my ally Poland. It was a fun little war, but I didn't really want provinces from Ottomans yet, as all my trade was coming from Persia and Indian nodes. I decided to just take all the money from Ottomans to make them weaker for future wars, and immediately looked towards expansion in Timurids, and then Mamluks, and eventually back to Ottomans again as soon as the truce was up. Zimbabwe has a really strong army, by the way. The conquest get rather easy. Another thing you should do to improve economy is move the main trade port to Zanzibar node later, as now you have the Zanzibar node as a pseudo end node, which means there isn't going to be a lot of money leaving from it. So I ended this playthrough in 1610, where I had beaten Ottomans 3 times now. I had all of Hormuz trade node, most of the Persian trade node, and I was starting to get into India. Quickly looking at ideas, I decided to open with economic. That's usually not my choice for the first idea group in single player games, but Zimbabwe is an exception. The inflation reduction is helpful. Obviously we have a lot of gold mines. Dev cost is always great, and the construction cost stacks with the national idea group, giving us minus 25% construction cost fairly early in game, which means free dev from even cheaper buildings. Second, I took quality. The CAV compatibility and the 10% discipline is massive. And then when I switched to horde, I took the horde idea group, which is pretty awesome in itself and has some great policies like the one with economic that gives plus 33% raising power gain, a massive modifier. And finally, I took influence as I was playing with some big vassals. You can switch that out for Diplo or Humanist or admin idea set, or even expansion if you want to colonize more provinces. Before we close out this video, I wanted to look at the buildings return again, because that's a very interesting modifier to me. So it turns out I built upwards of 300 tier 1 buildings, which gave plus 1 dev, and about 80 tier 2 buildings, which gave plus 2 dev. So we got at least 450 dev from just buildings, which is insane as that's about 25% of our total dev right now. I think this building to dev modifier is one of the most fun new mechanics in game. I had a lot of fun playing Zimbabwe Horde as well, and in my opinion, you should try it too. Let me know in comments if you have a favorite farmable nation, as Zimbabwe is definitely up there in mine. I always love reading your comments. You're watching a Radiator's Guide. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you all in the next one.